Hi, my name is Jesse Anderson, and in this video I'm going to share my definition, my non-hype definition of what big data is. Let's start out with that definition, because we've often seen the definition of the 3 V's, the 4 V's, the 5 V's, lots of V's out there. My definition is can't. So let's understand what can't means. What can't means is if you're a manager and you walk up to, let's say, your data analyst, business intelligence person, someone like that, and you ask them to do something, a report, for example, and they say, I can't do that, and there's some kind of technical limitation that holds them back, that's an example of a can't. They can't do it due to the size of data, due to some sort of data issue. Now, this won't be the only definition that you'll need as a company or an organization. You will need somebody who's a qualified data engineer to verify, yes, this is a data issue, this is a big data issue, and then you'll need that person to not only say that, but also to implement that. Let's go through some real-world examples of can't to help you understand it better. Now, to reiterate, these can'ts have to be technical. They have to be technical in some reason, some fashion, where there's a technical limitation that holds us back. Because sometimes what we'll hear from somebody is that they can't do that, but the real reason, the real root of the reason is due to a skill gap or an ability gap. So we'll need to root that out for ourselves. So we have several different options here, several different common ways that I've seen that can't manifest. And one of those ways is when you walk up to that person, to that data analyst, and you say, can you run this report? They say, I can't do that. It's going to take too long. And that issue of too long is sometimes it takes a day to run. I have worked with clients where it's 14 days. And during that time, the system has to be babied the entire time. Somebody has to watch it. It's a really big operational pain. And so when you walk up and you ask, hey, can you run this? It's not an issue of can they do it? Do they have the skills to do it? They do. The issue is it's going to take 14 days for this thing to run, and it's a big problem. And that's a manifestation of a big data problem. Another often common one is that when they ask for a report or some kind of analysis to be run, you're told it's going to bring down the production database. You'd have a database in production, and it's going to slow everything else down while that query runs. Now that query, that production database is used for, let's say, customers or clients or something like that. Well, we can't have that happen because now it will slow everything down for our clients. But we're still left with that need for that data. We still have that can't. Another example is when we have too many steps, too many manual steps to complete, where you ask them, hey, can you run this report? They think about, I need to run this step manually, and I need to run this step manually, and this step manually. So each one of those manual steps takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and so there's this can't there because they can't do each one. There's so much effort that goes into that. Sometimes, and for some other companies, it's data scattered all over the place. Now this could be due to siloing, and that siloing could be for whatever reason. It could be due to a company just siloing that each one of this business unit and this business unit has a silo. Or it could be due to a technical reason where in order for the database to perform well enough, this business unit or this group, organization or part has to have its own database that's separate from that database, that's separate from that database. And so when you ask for that report, what they'll have to do is they'll have to suck the data from that database, from that database, from that database, and it's a whole problem unto itself just to get that done. So these are all can'ts, but they're all technical in nature rather than the person saying, I don't have the skills to do this. So let's talk about the hype cycle. Hey, guess what? Big data is off the hype cycle. Is it still even relevant? Should I even been looking at it? Let's say you're a manager at a company. Should you even be concerned with big data? Well, it doesn't matter what you call it. Whether it's big data, data lake, whatever you want to call it. If you have big data problems, there's only one way to solve those big data problems, and that's with big data technologies. So whatever we want to call it, if you have need a large-scale data processing system, you have to use these technologies no matter what. There's just no getting around it. You just have to use it. Personally, I'm excited that we're off the hype cycle because years ago when I went to companies and meet the management, I was there to save their company. They had made some bad investments, made some bad decisions, and big data was going to save the day for them. And that doesn't happen anymore. I'm excited that this isn't what's happening anymore. I'm excited that when I come into a company, they're expecting tangible results. Now, they may not have had those tangible results due to various issues, but their goal is a tangible result. It's not a hype thing. They want to do this report. They want to do this analytic. And companies are really off that hype cycle expecting tangible things. So let's talk about our goal. Our goal with big data is to take that can't and make it a can. And by doing that, we are going to create a data product that gives us some specific business value. And that business value that we're going to get is going to help us give some kind of return on investment. It's that analytic does something for us. So as you kind of go through your mental Rolodex of thinking about all the can'ts that you have at your company, maybe you asked for this report, for that report. Now go back and think about what the value could have been had you been able to do that report. What would you have been able to do? Would you have been able to make another $10 million, euros, whatever currency more? Maybe it's $1 million, or maybe it's 100,000, but we have so many of those $100,000 analytics that we can't do that it could total $1 million, to 10 million, 20 million, some number of millions of dollars. So what we can think about is by doing that goal, by changing that can't to a can, we're enabling something for the business. Now, for some companies, having their goal is different. They don't have big data yet, but looking at the projection of growth, they're expecting to get big data. And so their growth, their goal is more aspirational. Their aspiration is to have big data. So they're often wanting to have big data tools and technologies in place at the beginning to be able to facilitate that growth. And that's really what's important in their goals. If you'd like to learn more about the sorts of teams and the sorts of organizational structures that help you be successful with big data, I just wrote a book. It's called Data Teams. If you go to datateams.io, you can see the site, you can purchase the book, and get more information about the book. With that, I wish you the best of luck on your journey with big data.